saying that this social media topic that we've chosen to talk about is just so big. And in the last conversation we had, there were just so many things that came out, like loneliness, which I think is a massive topic for young people anyway. And what impact does that kind of thing have on the development of body image issues? And, but also for parents, how much should you monitor your children? And I think we've touched on this in previous episodes, but this kind of pressure on parents to be all over absolutely everything and be aware of absolutely everything when actually they might be having their own struggles with social media or their own body image issues or controlling. I think you alluded to it last time, Jenny, that demonizing things like social media could probably make them more attractive to young people, and then there's the possibility of alienating yourself and putting yourself in a kind of them and us camp with parents and teenagers. So there seems to be, we kind of have this heading of social media, but there's lots of other things going on under there that probably parents of teenagers have always been tackling. Mm-hmm. But this social media thing seems to be focus.
It's interesting as well, because when I work with teenagers, one of the biggest problems obviously is the social media. But once a teenager gets the support, it's at the stage where they're spending hours a day on YouTube. Seems to be quite a big, I never used to think YouTube, I thought YouTube was quite harmless until I started doing this work. And I realized actually YouTube's one of the worst ones in terms of watching videos, exercising, and just when it comes to people that have got body issues with eating disorders, for example, YouTube can be. So I try not to focus solely on what can we do about this social media thing, because by that point they've got a really addictive relationship with social media, and you can't just, well, you could just take it away. I don't think when you've watched it for hours and hours and hours and days and months that it would be very good just to take it away completely, because then that just sends the child into the, like Jenny said earlier on, the fight or flight or freeze, and you don't want that. So you've just got to gradually take it off, like slow it down. It's like any addiction, isn't it? When someone's drinking alcohol to the extreme, the best way to stop doing that is to just gradually slow it. Some people that are alcoholics and they're so used to it in the body, it's more harmful, isn't it? So emotionally, I feel, and Jenny might not agree with me, and you might not agree with me, Jane, but emotionally, I feel when a teenager is on social media for, let's say, 5 hours a day, because it does happen, and then
that's quite conservative, actually.
Yeah. And then you come and take it all away from them. What is that going to do to their well-being, their emotional balance? How are they going to feel? Because they've had all of this input and they're addicted to that input. And now there's a lot of coping strategies built around watching these daily videos and new core beliefs and everything. And so when you take it away, if you just take it away like that, it can be more damaging. You've got to really just try and focus first on the teenagers, your child's feelings and thoughts and behaviors and what their habits are. And if you can get them to engage in a conversation about social media and educating them around, like, what is it that you get out of watching this? How is it helping you? Because when I speak to teenagers they know that the YouTubing is not helping them and it makes them feel really sad, but they can't seem to stop it. So having that conversation with them, if you can, about just asking them, how is it making you feel? Just something as simple as that. How is it making you feel? If they are honest and it makes them feel sad, then it's bringing awareness to them. You're kind of shining a light on them rather than just saying, right, I'm taking it away. Just ask them questions like, how are you feeling when you watch it? Like, when you watching it, what's going through your mind, and how are you feeling afterwards, and what do you do afterwards? Straight after that, what are you doing, and how does it make you feel? I think those are the main ones. Jennie. Scribble in Jennie. I think we should call her Scribble in Jennie.
And then we look to Jennie as the oracle to tell us.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not the oracle.
She's the matrix.
I don't know. I'm just coming up with some ideas, and they certainly may not be right. You know, I don't have small children, teenage children. So I think, although I do work with children, so I have young people, clients who I see at home, and I work in a school as well. So I'm kind of in that world, and I look at them, and I sometimes say to the young people, I am the oldest person in this school, and I'm kind of wearing that as a badge. But I think though that, you know, to come back to the topic again, I kind of take this conversation back.
As
and
always.
I was thinking about when we speak to our young people about the parent-adult-child triangle, which I think is really useful to consider. And maybe we actually could have a whole session on that at some point and play around with that. But very simply, the theory of this is that when we're communicating with people, we're either communicating as if we are in child mode, or as if we're in adult, which is the good place to be, or if we're in parent, and the parent is kind of doing maybe critical or dictatorial stuff. And actually getting to notice as a parent, when we're addressing this issue with our young people or our children, how we frame what we're saying as being provocative. Because if we finger wag and we're in parent mode, it's going to elicit a response. So just to revisit that. Another thing I was thinking about was discussing with our young people the impact of the specific content that they're absorbing, because we know that probably watching funny things on TikTok about funny things cats do is a whole different level to watching hardcore porn. Or watching people who are talking about their image, and they've had a nose job and they don't like this, or they're going to have that done. Or people who are obsessing about their weight, and indeed things like the pro-Ana stuff that's out there, all are on a whole different level. So actually discussing, you know, with our young people, you know, what they're watching and the impact it may have. So it's not a universal everything on social media is terrible. Certainly we are in agreement, I think, that too much of any time spent is too much. But if we're talking about reducing it, then maybe we can reduce it by slightly changing what the algorithms expect to deliver to us. And so you were talking, I was just thinking about, you know, a self-evaluation would be really interesting as an adult. What algorithms are being delivered to my door, to my smartphone, and just to consider how very different it can be.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because I'm in this line of work, I purposely choose the screens that, you know, that people having cosmetic surgery, young doing the jaw thing, you know, to get the jaw muscles bigger, and I purposely follow that just so that I can keep in the know-how. The Andrew Tate movement, all of that, I want to absorb it, but not to the point where it's affecting me, but just to the point where I'm like, right, these are the running themes at the moment. This is what's going on, because it doesn't affect me anymore. And it's interesting because years and years ago, obviously social media wasn't around, luckily, when I was in my late teens. But if I watched then what I watch now, that would have a huge effect on me. But going back to Jane's note earlier on, because she was on about, can you desensitize yourself? And I believe that I have around what I watch now, because my view, I've reframed it, haven't I? So the reason I'm watching those things on social media is because I'm really interested now in what's going on for young people at this point, and how it's going to harm them, etc., so that I can stay in the know-how. But if I was still going through body image problems myself, then it really wouldn't be good watching what I'm watching. because they'd be thinking, I could do that, I could have this done, and I could do the jaw thing, and I could do this. So really, can we teach our children to reframe how they think about what they're watching?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I think possibly yes, but it would take quite a lot of work. I'm just thinking about, you know, busy parent.
How long have you got?
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely worthwhile, you know, to maybe hang out. But if they would let us, you know, if, again, you know, how would it be if mum came and sat on the bed and said, let's look at some TikTok together, you know, what's your friends saying? Then they say, no, go away, you know.
I don't think they'd say just no, they'd probably swear.
Yes, it would be expletives in there. So it's obviously got to be handled really sensitively. Maybe, you know, one of the things I actually did a while ago, I actually wrote a letter to a teenager. And this was, I'd been contacted by some parents who wanted me to work with their teenager who had body image issues. And I actually felt that there was some reason, so it must be about a year ago now, there was some reason why it didn't happen, can't remember, but I actually wrote to the young person. I didn't send it because it wasn't appropriate to send it. And I still got the letter, and it's called Dear You. And it's sort of a plea from somebody outside, you know, somebody who realizes, wow, this can really harm you. I don't have an axe to grind with this particular young person, you know. It's you know, I'm not family member, I'm just a stranger, who's saying, wow, you know, this stuff is going there and doing this to you potentially. I'm trying to remember the details of how this letter came about, but I was looking at it the other day and thinking, yeah, maybe that's the sort of recording we could do, which would be like a salutary tale, you know, a story of these are the risks.
And
there are some teenagers that go into schools, aren't there, and talk, some older teenagers now who talk about their own experiences with social media and gay pornography and all of that kind of thing. Listening to people of your generation who, but you're right, for some reason, and it's always been the way, hasn't it? Well, children are trying to separate from their parents and become independent adults, and so that parent's voice is not usually.
Because as a parent, you can say all, you know, with all the will in the world, you can explain to your young person about, you know, too much social media, too much this and that, and it will just fall on deaf ears.